admittedly, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to record today. I wasn't sure if I just wanted to go ahead and record for tomorrow because I just wasn't really feeling it for some reason. But I wasn't sure what the episode was really going to do. So I went ahead and decided to watch it, and depending on how and my enjoyable factor was for the episode, I was going to determine whether or not I was going to go ahead and watch it or not. And obviously, because you're watching this now, I determined that the episode was better than what I was expecting because I wasn't sure what it was really going to do. But the main stuff that it focuses about, mainly about further information about Kara and their organization and what their potential plans are and their group and how it works and blah blah blah, was way more interesting than any of the stuff that happened with Boruto and his group of friends, which I imagine what they did within the episode is probably going to be more important later on as the show continues. But basically what they do is Denki wanted to use a hot air balloon to basically figure out a way to be able to communicate to other people from farther distances, so potentially from all the other great nations, to be able to communicate further information. And that's basically kind of it. That was the whole reason why they did it, and it, like I said, probably going to become much more prevalent as the show continues on any further whenever they decided to use it. But in my head, I was like, oh, so this is how they created a telephone. That's pretty cool. That's basically it, right? But like I said, the stuff that I found much more interesting was further information on Kara, because obviously they're like the big bad group right now, and further information about how they work and who they are and etc is obviously going to be much more interesting, especially for me, because this is stuff regarding around the manga, and people praise the manga, and the anime is only now getting to this stuff. And so another reason why I was kind of contemplating whether or not I wanted to go ahead and record and potentially get the video out today was because they talk about some stuff about like the vessel, and Jigen ends up basically getting his name dropped, I think, for the first time within this episode. I wanted to read up on some stuff, and the more that I kind of delved into some stuff that I wasn't really sure about, the more my mind started to go like all over the place, and I started getting a little bit confused of it. And it doesn't help that this is like information that manga readers have probably known for a while now, and because I just haven't gotten around to reading the manga, this is stuff that probably wouldn't have been nearly as confusing if I was reading it. But for people who have been reading it, this is probably just, it all makes sense. But for me, I'm just kind of like, okay, so Kawaki is the vessel. The vessel that they refer to is Kawaki, and Kawaki we already see. We see him in the opening for like the past like couple weeks now, but we also saw him in the beginning of the first episode of the series in general, or this show in particular. He is essentially what they refer to as the vessel. He is the vessel for Ishiki Otsutsuki, and Ishiki Otsutsuki was basically the member a member of the higher family who years ago wanted to create the god tree, and the god tree is used in order to create the chakra fruit. And as we all know, what ended up happening with the chakra fruit then was that Kaguya ate it and basically became the source of all chakra. Well, what happened then, because I don't think this character ever existed in the original Naruto and Naruto Shippuden airing of both the manga and the anime. This is only a new character that exists within this new series of events. Ishiki and Kaguya got into a little bit of a scuffle, and basically Kaguya was able to completely dismember his bottom half of his body. And what Ishiki then did was he went and found Jigen and shrunk himself and went into his body, and is now infusing himself because he didn't have enough time to put the Kama seal on him. And then through enough time has passed, he now has the Kama seal on him, Jigen does, and hoping that it just ends up working, the Kama seal is eventually going to take over Jigen's body as a whole, and Ishiki will then be revived through the seal. Maybe this all makes sense in context if I just read about it by reading the manga, and I was reading this from like start to finish, and I was learning more and more information by then. But I'm reading all this, I'm confused as to what this shit is, and I'm still like confused about Boruto's pure eye and how that's connected to the Otsutsuki in some way, and how he even got it in the first place. And does he have the pure eye because of that fucking guy on the moon from Naruto the Last, whose name I completely forgot and don't remember at the moment? What is all this stuff? This is just information I'm really confused about, and maybe it's just stuff that I have to read up on a little bit more and try to figure out more and more stuff. But Boruto's pure eye sounds absolutely fucking ridiculous in terms of its strength abilities, because it has something similar to what Kurama has that Naruto ended up then learning because he gained the trust of the Nine Tails and was able to learn how to use the Nine Tails chakra. And it also has similar abilities to the Byakugan, so that's also really fucking ridiculous. I'm just reading more and more information about this, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this going on? And I'm not even talking about the episode anymore at this point. Basically, what just ends up happening within the episode that I found way more entertaining was just, they talk about, you know, the stuff that happened with Deepa and Victor. Basically, Konohamaru explains to both Kakashi and Tsunade, who are also in the episode, of what they were doing. They were bringing back the God Tree, but the God Tree didn't work because it was just a recreation and not the actual real thing, because they couldn't create it, not like the Osatsuki did a long time ago. They talk about like the inner and the outer circle, basically, where the inner circle is the actual official members of Kara, like Deepa and Victor. Victor survived, by the way. He shows up at the end of the episode and talks to Jigen. And the outer circle are basically those who are not official members, but they are collaborators. They do go and get information on what is needed, and they give them to the official members of Kara, and they believe in their ideals, which is why the Kara members even knew about the destruction of Momoshiki Otsutsuki in the first place, because the only people who knew about that were very select few people, and those of the 5 Kage of the 5 Great Nations. And the reason why they knew about that to begin with was because they were working with Onoki, the science guy that was there in one of the previous arcs in the Stone Village. He was basically in the outer circle for the members of Kara, and he was able to get further information because of Onoki. And Onoki is pretty much in the inner circle of those of the Great Nations with the 5 Kage, so of course he knew about it, and that's how the members of Kara know about it. And so basically the whole dilemma within this episode is for Naruto to determine whether or not they can even trust people in their own villages anymore, and the decision for him to make is to, do they leave the doors open for potential dangers to come in any further, because the threat of the outer circle of the members of Kara, they're not members of Kara, but you know what I mean, the outer circle, or the outer as they refer them to as, they could gain much more information. Eventually, Kara can end up learning this information and use that to their advantage, or they can close it and, you know, keep track of people much further and gain more information on them and determine whether or not someone is a traitor or someone is just a member of the village. That's what this is basically all about. That's the dilemma, and Naruto has to determine what he wants to do, and ultimately he ends up leaving the doors open, so it kind of doesn't really mean anything. But it just was more interesting because I kind of liked Naruto being put into this position, and he has to be tested for his ideals. Does he leave the doors open and try to keep, you know, all of the villages and all the people of the world connected and even further, as he's been trying to do for a long time in his life now? Or does he, you know, shut the villages in and keep everybody out, but still try to keep everyone into a circle to where everyone knows everything about each other? And I don't know, I just thought it was a weird dilemma that Naruto was put in, and I just found it way more interesting than anything else about the episode. But yeah, that's basically it. I kind of rambled on a little bit longer than I was anticipating to for an episode that kind of did very little, to be completely honest. But there were a couple of moments in the episode that Naruto had, just kind of learning more about security and information about people and how they get that information for other people. I thought that was cool, and there was a little moment with him and Kakashi that was kind of cool as well. And like I said, the stuff with Boruto and his friend group, it wasn't necessary, but it was kind of cute how they kind of bandaged together to work on this little project, and I thought it was fun. And the way that it ended was also pretty cute as well. But that's basically it. That's kind of what the episode does. I mainly focused on talking about a lot of more information that I'm like only now just learning. And even though it's a little bit confusing for me at the moment because I only know so little because I don't read the manga, like I said, but it's definitely interesting. It's confusing, but it's information that is becoming way more interesting than what we've been getting for like the past like 2.5 years. So I'll take what I can get. So that's basically the end of the episode, which means it's the end of the review. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like. If you want to subscribe for more videos just like this. I'll see you guys next one. Have a fantastic day. I'm going to try to read up on more information as much as I can to try to make sense of everything. But that's basically it. I'll see you guys later. I'm out. Peace.